just to hear the stories of them fighting and stuff they got into, like, I was attracted to that. I wanted to be accepted by my uncles and my mom. I wanted to take on the tradition of being a gang member.
As a young boy, Gilbert Gonzalez idolized his family members, who were active in Southern California street gangs. To him, they were larger than life.
I wanted to have their stories. I wanted to be rough like them and be strong like they were strong. Whatever they got to do for the gang, like robbing, stealing, or killing, people dying, people get shot, so it's a part of it.
He moved to Arkansas, but when he was 16, his uncle came to visit and officially jumped him into the gang.
He just started punching me in my face, like he was hurting me, and I had to swing back, and he says, "You're getting jumped in," so it was fighting, fist fights. My own uncle was beating me up. Right away, like I thought I was like the toughest dude, because now like I can call myself a member of a King Cobras.
His brothers eventually followed him into the King Cobras. Gilbert says he loved the identity he had as a gang member.
Anybody who was from a different gang, if they wanted to fight me, I was always claiming it. That's what I loved to do, you know. One thing I was good back in the days was being a gang member. I wasn't even good at anything else. That's who I was. So I wanted to be all my life as a gang member.
Weekly fights and turf wars with other gangs were fueled by daily drug and alcohol abuse.
Crack cocaine and the use of cocaine and mixing it together. And I didn't care. Like I remember just saying like, well, if I'm gonna overdose, I'm gonna overdose partying, and I didn't care how much I would use, or because it was always there around us. We'll always do drugs. It was normal to us. You know, it was a part of the gang culture, doing drugs, getting high, getting drunk.
One night, Gilbert was stabbed during a fight. The reality of his life choices finally sank in.
And I remember getting rushed to the ER, and they had to stitch me up, and because I was cut really deep in my back, and just thinking about life, like, is this all there is to life? Like gang banging and doing drugs and partying. I was like, man, there has to be a change. I can't live this way forever because I'm gonna end up dying or going to jail.
But his gangster lifestyle continued. Soon after, he was arrested for public intoxication. Late that night, he called his girlfriend Karen for bail money.
I just told her, can you get me out? And I didn't have money on me, and Karen came, and her mom actually gave her the money.
I told him, I'm like, hey, my mom, you know, that was my mom's money. Like, she said, you need to come to church. And he said, okay. And I was like, I'll pick you up.
And I remember going, I was hungover still, you know, and I went, and when I was in there, you know, I didn't really pay attention to the sermon because I was scared of Karen's mom because she was singing in the choir. And I remember her coming down the steps, and I thought she was gonna slap me in service. And but she stuck her hand out, and she's like, nice to meet you. And that's shocked me.
He started going to church regularly with Karen. Then one day, she went forward during an altar call.
In my mind, I was like, is she really gonna do this? Is she really gonna follow Jesus? Like, we never talk about it, and it just blew me away. Like, she made this commitment.
In the following weeks, he met with a pastor and heard about God's love and grace in a way he hadn't before.
I was just thinking what he told me, like, about who Jesus is and what he did for us, and knowing that this loving God died for my sins. I was just feeling so much weight, like heaviness on my heart. Because before, I never regretted what I did. I never felt guilty for the people I beat up or hurt or almost killed. Like, to me, it was like I felt good about it, but it was just eating me up inside. I remember going in the room and getting on my knees and crying. Like, I never cried like that in a long time. And I remember just laying everything on God. Like, God, I want to change. I don't want to live this lifestyle no more. I'm tired of drinking. You know, forgive me for all the past things I did in my life, from beating up people. And I was just done with the gang stuff. I was done with all that. You know, the way I felt in that moment was just at peace, like knowing that everything that I did in my life, like, he forgave it at that moment.
Gilbert left the gang and was set free from drugs and alcohol addiction as he put his life in Jesus' hands.
I'm beyond thankful. I'm grateful that God has changed my life, because I don't know where I would be at right now. I'd either be dead or in jail or being homeless. And he has blessed me with so much, you know.
Gilbert and Karen married and started a family. His brothers and mother also gave their lives to Christ and left the gang.
God, in His mercy, you know, like answered my prayers of my family, because I thought they would never change. He changes people. He changed me. He changed my family.
The gang member identity that used to define him has now been exchanged for a new one, a follower of Jesus.
Now that I found my identity is in Christ, like the old has passed and the new, you know, my new identity is in Him. I'm no longer living for myself, you know, so I live for Christ now. It's changed the way I think, the way I live out my life, the way I treat my wife, raising my boy, and it's just a new identity knowing that I've been forgiven